So we've got Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Steve Jobs, the Tesla guy, is that Elon Musk? The guy who invented the Penenka penalty. All great inventors, innovators. And I think we were the first people to come up with a real tennis podcast. We love innovators here, don't we, Ben?
You think? Well, if there's another one out there, it's obviously not. It's obviously not on a patch. Doesn't have the same following.
We were the first. Yeah, we were definitely the first.
Can you remember it?
The first episode?
Well, I can remember, like, we were sat in Melbourne having breakfast in 50 acres. And, like, as we were leaving, we were just yapping away about life. And I was just like, I'd love to do a podcast. And obviously you being the most, like, enthusiastic person in the world. Let's do it. Let's go home and do one right now.
Yeah, I think it was one of them where I said I couldn't be bothered with the idea just existing. I have to act on it. So act on it we did. And 55 episodes in, here we are, back for episode 3 of the new series. Benno, how's life been since you got back from Australia?
Yeah, not too bad. Straight back into a week at work on my own. Other Ben was on holiday, picked up some kind of nasty bug last week. So
you love a bit of man flu.
Well, I know it was a bug. Unfortunately, I would have loved a bit of man flu, but it was a bit more. It was a bit more graphic than that.
Oh God, crikey, that's no good. Well, you got to do that kind of thing.
Work and straight back in. So, how about you?
Yeah. What have I been doing? Just grafting, filing tax returns, I guess.
January.
Yeah, I know. Just got a few like New Year's resolutions, you know. Feeling quite motivated at the start of this year, but less motivated than used to get a new podcast out. So thanks very much for encouraging this to happen today. I actually had loads of stuff I wanted to say in the opening, but mate, yeah, obviously I did think of one funny thing which I'm going to say today, but I'll leave that for the main body. Anyway, fantastic. Real tennis sort of dialogue in the first 5 minutes.
What's the news? What's happened? We've had an Australian Open champion,
John, winning his second title, I believe.
No, second Oz or second title?
Second Oz.
Oh, okay. I was going to say. Do you know what I was chatting? So interesting story. On singles final night, I'd been out during the day with a couple of the lads playing darts and bowling, and generally having like a bit of a silly day, doing silly sports. Anyway, we got to the club because obviously one of the people was just desperate to watch tennis, so dragged us all with him. And I was sat there after about 503 beers, and I was chatting to Penny.
Oh, nice.
Having a lovely chat with Penny. And I did actually say to John afterwards when he was leaving, I was like, mate, can you please apologise to your mum for the fact that she's had to put up with me for the last 45 minutes? Not because I did anything silly, but just because she was having a couple of glasses of fizz and I was obviously a train wreck.
It's weird, isn't it, when you're battered, the time sort of goes like light speed and sort of a conversation, you think, you just don't know what's happening.
I was chatting to her about success in the family and things like that. She's won 31 open singles.
Really? And that was in a top era where they were all good.
Well, and amateur as well.
Yeah, I know. Mad, innit?
I was like 31, I think. Or because I had no filter. I was like, I didn't realise it was that many, Penny.
There you go.
Anyway, new Aussie Open champion. What else is on? What's happening? US Open forms out. You going?
US Open, yeah, I'm going. I'm there.
Are you doing some musical chairs on doubles partners or?
No. I signed a three tournament deal with Darren Long after I got binned by Gordo before the French. So it's going to be the third tournament in that 3 tournament contract, and I'll look to revisit my out of contract status at the end of the season. I've already got a few free agents I'm looking to line up, so we'll see. What about you, mate? You're back to usual, aren't you? Back to tried and tested.
Yeah, me and Bryn are going to have a go. Well, we're going to play the World Doubles, so we're going to get stuck in. I'm looking forward to that, actually.
That is going to be good banter. I've never been to Philly. I remember our Philly podcast, and I just could offer pitiful knowledge on Philadelphia, and you were like, "Mate, the Showers a great club," and I've never been.
America.
Yeah, I know, it's mad.
I love it.
Excited. I've literally got, I think, the next 6 weekends consecutive I'm playing real tennis. So I'm in Leamington this weekend, then Secor, then the amateur for 2 consecutive weekends, then straight into the US Open. So I'll be hitting balls.
So you're ramping it up slightly. You're going for the Leamington silver racket, followed by the Seahawk silver racket into a major, amateur major.
I just like the competitiveness. It gets you switched on, tuned up. So that's why I'm playing. I
completely agree, mate. Playing Norman Hyde or full handicap really dials you in.
Yeah, it actually does. Makes the nerves. I love it. That's why I play so much pool these days. Anyway, we do have a guest on this podcast as our sort of innovative new format is going.
Season 2.
Exciting guest, an innovator himself, an inventor, a visionary, without a doubt. And I tell you what, I don't think it would be that offensive to say that sometimes the ideas people are like, what? No way. But I think every single idea has ended up being like a resounding success. And yeah, Benno, the Tambour Tour, it's been great so far.
There's a lot of people in real tennis that kind of plod and they talk about change.
I agree.
But they never really do anything about it. And this person is an ideas person, and there's no bad ideas in brainstorming, as they say. But the difference is our guest today has followed through with a lot of these things, and absolutely fair play, because otherwise people would just plod and complain and nothing would ever change. So he's trying to mix things up a bit, drag it into the modern day, and it's like, hats off.
As we say, real tennis sometimes isn't the best game at change modernisation, but our guest, if you'll unmute yourself, please. Mr. Zach Edel, good evening.
Evening, fellas. How are we?
Very good, very good. Great to have you on here. And sorry that we got Real Tennis Cards on first ahead of Tambour, the worldwide brand.
It's all right, another innovation that's come about, so that's good.
Just one of them. It's just
it did hurt.
little bit.
Sometimes we like to keep the viewers guessing, just don't make the guess too predictable. And we'd had plenty of Instagram DMs asking for who is Tambour. People still didn't know, but now we've got you here.
So you burst onto the scene as like this mystique that nobody knew about. I remember hearing like names banded around. I heard like Freddie Adam. I was like,
Freddie Adam? Yeah, everyone was like, it's Freddie Adam. It's from California.
I'm sure she's like really pumped about real tennis gear from like LA or whatever. I can't think of anyone else who I remember my name, but yeah, the speculation out there was fantastic.
Yeah,
people thought it was me, and I was like, well, it's not me. I'm trying to find out who it is. Like,
yeah, it was. Do you know what it was? It was what you were just saying about having so many ideas. I was getting to the point where I thought, I've had so many ventures or ideas that have failed miserably. If I just fire another one in, people are going to laugh me off. So it almost was out of embarrassment that I didn't say that it was me for a little while. And then obviously as it started to gain a bit of traction, it was almost like free advertising. So I just kind of ran with it because the speculation as to who it was actually probably gaining more recognition than what I was actually doing at the time. So I just left it for people to make up names, and it was hilarious that people were saying to me like, oh, do you know who it is? And no, I don't. And even sponsored the Jesmond Dean Cup. And
mate, I know. I was like, well, hang on a minute. Zach must know who it is, like, but he doesn't know. And I'm like, I didn't even twig. It was crazy. We all got shirts. I've still got them. And mad.
Yeah, and then
you were basically like a real life gossip girl.
That's it. Yeah, that was it. And then obviously I don't know what it was, but there was a profound moment in the pros WhatsApp chat where people were starting to get a little bit upset about it, and I thought, geez, I'm gonna have to come clean here. So then the cat was out the bag, and it's been about 12 months since. So
mate, how time flies.
I remember seeing the text, and I think I'd already heard a few again, like the rumour mill. And I remember the big announcement. Hi guys, just so you know, like it's me. Blah blah blah. It was a really like, I'm expecting you all to absolutely kill me here. But it was good. So I mean, like my first question to you, sir, is what the mic is yours. Advertise away. What is the Tambour brand?
Well, it's evolved a little bit.
We're coming on to evolution, don't worry.
Yeah, it started off as a brief conversation with a member at Jesmond when I was up there, about because there was a member there who's basically got a women's shoe company that he runs, and I was saying to him just like after a lesson one day, like, oh, there's not really a designated real tennis brand as such. Obviously, when you think of sports like football, you go straight to Nike. Okay, obviously they're into everything, but there seems to be, golf, Callaway. There are certain brands that are associated with certain sports, and there isn't anything for real tennis. Obviously, the numbers are pretty small, but I kind of thought to myself, well, there's probably a little gap in there. Maybe Play Brave is the closest thing we've had to a specific thing. Gray's obviously with the rackets, but their clothing isn't really marketed towards real tennis. So I just kind of ran with it. Like you said, an ideas person. I like to think up things and try it and see if it works. And it started off as the clothing. And then quickly after that, the string came around. And I think that was obviously the major thing that got people talking. And because that had not changed for like 20 years, the string. So obviously there'd been companies in the past 10 years since I've been a pro that have tried rackets, Gold Leaf, Harrow, things like that. But the string's never been something that anyone's ever questioned or talked about that much that I knew of. So, yeah, just kind of thought, well, we'll have a crack at that, see if we can do something a bit different, bring a bit of colour into the game. I like to be a bit loud and modern. So I thought, well, if we can make some different coloured string, why not? Especially because I was actually playing lawn tennis at the time because it was summertime. Round the corner from the club in Newcastle, and I went into the pro shop then. The guy had like a plethora of string on his wall, and I was like, well, why haven't we got any of that? It's a bit weird that we just have this. No one ever says, oh, can I have string for spin or power? It was just like, can I have some string, please? So I kind of just went along with it, found a manufacturer, and there we go. Here we are.
Unless you're Darren and you just go for durability. To still use.
I was chatting to him today. He was like, "Yeah, I tell you what, like, I need to get some more of that like front tennis." And I was like, "You're not the only one in the world, mate. Like, pretty sure the dinosaurs died like because of a meteorite. Like, honestly."
Just quietly, I can't believe you mentioned like brands like Nike for football and stuff like that. And when you mentioned golf, you didn't mention Zem Sports.
TA, visit the website.
You're literally going to get a text from your dad as soon as he listens to this. Mark, please listen to
it. I'd love the chat from it. Maybe.
So it started off as like kit on I imagine like a fair. I mean, let's face it. Real tennis is like you can't really dive too far down that rabbit hole because you're not going to get the market right. So I imagine it was pretty. When I say basic, I don't mean basic quality, but like basic in terms of shirt, hoodie, shorts, or whatever.
There's obviously it's obviously very different to it's named a company, right? Like it's Tambour, it's a brand, but it's essentially a sole trader. It's a one-man show. It's not like I'm going to take on a load of employees and we're going to run a new line of clothing every 6 months and like
a sweatshop.
Exactly. There's no like football bring out different colour boots every 2 months to keep the sales coming in. Obviously, the market's not there for real tennis, so you have to go about it a bit differently and do the numbers at a far smaller scale. So every item of clothing is printed to order. So I don't have a huge stock room, so you have to be clever that way. The string was obviously another big problem because you speak to manufacturers and they're talking about doing 10,000 minimum orders for reels of string, and you're like, well, that's just not going to happen. It was complicated to get the hardest thing is when you do smaller orders to get the quality right, because obviously most of the time the quality is good, but you have to do mad numbers. And obviously, real tennis being the kind of demographic that it is, they would like the higher quality items, but the numbers aren't there to support that in terms of going to the bigger factories. So that was the most complicated thing at the start, was finding the right people to do the right things without making it too difficult to actually achieve it.
Well, let's face it as well. Yes, it's the like type of clientele that prefer a slightly higher quality, but English people are generically tight. So you can produce something quality, but if you suddenly turn around and go, right, it's 60 quid a shirt, people are like, no, 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 no. Like the English mentality is, I want the best, but I want to pay village price.
Yeah, it's trying to. Well, it depends. Sometimes there's research in saying that if you price something high, people think it's better than it is. So if you just come out with a shirt that's 150 quid, people are going to go, oh, it must be really good, and they haven't even seen it. But it's just because it's priced high. So you've got you could go down the option of that route. But I kind of looked at I suppose the competitor like Playbrave. I would say that they are fairly expensive. For your average kind of
proper expensive, yeah.
Yeah, so kind of looked at that and was like, well, that's already there. So I'm going to go down a different route where I try and do it fairly competitive. And obviously because it's more maybe aimed at a younger audience, the clothing things, those guys don't have the big cash stacks to go and drop £150 on a cricket sweater. So they're just going to go for the £30 hoodie instead, which is fine.
What's mad is, I reckon if they sold Tambour in the Queen's Club shop and priced everything like more than 100 quid, people would still buy it. Like, honestly. Just because
Queen's Club shop's something I'd love to get into. I've asked about it, but not really had much joy. But hopefully in time, as it keeps growing in popularity, it'll get in there maybe.
With do you find like Shanks? I don't know what it's like at Manchester, and I'm imagining it's probably like strictly whites only, but like there's a lot of clubs now that are just kind of for day-to-day play, like it's being relaxed a bit. So like, put it this way, somebody rocked up yesterday to play at Bristol in like just a green t-shirt, and I didn't even ask me if it was all right, kind of thing. It's just the done thing now. Do you know what I mean? So I reckon, as the world gets a bit more sensible with things like that, that could obviously open up a whole new market as well in terms of not just limiting it to like white. What's it like at Manchester Shakes? White, strictly white.
It's all whites. Yeah, genuinely. Like, I think if I rocked up wearing blue, it'd be like, what are you doing? But I mean, no one would really say anything, and it would be a bit like restrictive. But I don't know. I suggested the other day. I just said to Daz, I was like, what are we doing here? Like, why is it still all white? Like, these guys coming in off like 70 handicap having introductory lessons. Like, what is the aim? Why are we making them play in white? Like, why?
You know what's really weird is that I was actually I was doing some washing earlier, and I was putting into. I'm a absolute home freak, but I was like putting all my stuff that I have to take to work, in like a separate pile, and I was just thinking, why do I bust a gut to do this and make sure that all my whites are clean, so I've got stuff to practice in and teach in and stuff like that? And I was like, if I rocked up in a black t-shirt, no one would care. But also, like, does it really matter? But it's going to sound stupid to say it, but it just feels a bit naughty. Do you know what I mean?
Also, it
feels a bit wrong.
You love enforcing rules, and if you're wearing black, you just can't really do that. You're like a policeman sort of stealing sweets. Like, you just can't do it.
I do enjoy rules because they're there for a reason, so let's just follow them. But it's not necessarily like, if I put it this way, if I rocked up and I've got Lewis Williams coming into practice next week, if I walked on foot in a black t-shirt, nobody would say anything. But I won't. I won't do it. But no one would say anything.
You'd take great pleasure if he wore a black t-shirt in telling him, though.
Of course I would.
Anyway, so we've got the Tambour kit. The most exciting thing, and genuinely when it first came out, I was like, this is crazy. But there's been 3 Tambour tours, and I have absolutely loved it, and I've tuned in every time, and it is just like, it's like a mega weekend, like mega. Talk to us about the Tambour tour, because that is like a proper innovation.
That must have been a big change, because there's a lot to take on there. You're relying on other people.
Yeah, it was something that I'd sort of contemplated doing for a little while before I actually pulled the trigger on it, and I delayed it just because I knew how much responsibility it would be, how much work it was going to take. And again, going back to when I first did Tambour, I didn't want to say to people that I was doing it in case it didn't work or I felt embarrassed. I didn't want to do it until I was kind of sure that it was going to work and it would be well received and it was going to actually see it through. Obviously, now we're midway through the season. We've done 3 out of 5, so it's kind of confident to say that it's going to be completed. Its first season, it'll be done well.
Did you have a? Sorry to interrupt. Did you have like 5 in mind at the start, or has it just kind of, were you like, right, I'm going to do 5, or is it like I'll just take it weekend by weekend, and if someone wants one, perfect, let's get it done?
No, it was kind of, again, just like chatting with the old man in the living room one night, and we was talking about the problems, and I think basically I'd played a British Open match against Neil Mackenzie first round.
What was that?
Statman Shanks can probably tell me when that was.
Yeah, that was 2022. You lost 6-5 in the 4th.
There you go. So that was a fairly crushing defeat, and I watched it back on stream and was like, right, okay, I kind of think I know what I've done wrong there. Right, I've analysed where it's gone wrong, crucial points. Did I make a bad decision? Did I try and force the point? Whatever. Kind of came to the conclusion I've done this wrong. Okay, when's my next match? When can I put it right? And action what I've just thought in the living room watching it back. And it was like there was nothing really until the US Open or the Seacourt Silver Racket, but that's kind of handicapped a bit. You have to play that a bit differently. So it was like the US Open, and I kind of was like, in any other professional sport, where am I waiting 4 months to try and put right what I've just done wrong? And coming from a football background, you could have a match 3 days later where you get the chance to put in a good performance after a bad one. So I kind of was like, right, okay, there needs to be a bit more for the match play side of things, but also I think about a week later I was marking a tournament at Jesmond and we had the British Open on, and Camden was playing 7 days after I'd left Queen's and not gone back, and I thought, well, he's still playing, he's had 4 or 5 matches, he's improving, and I'm sat here marking not getting better, and that should be the other way around. I'm trying to catch him up, but he's getting more match practice. And I remember I had a conversation with you, Ben, about it and kind of butted heads on it a little bit, but it was trying to just give ourselves, the people that need to improve, the chance to actually scrap and learn how to play and play more often than the people that are already at the top. Because I think in any other sport, if you're not at the top, you probably play more than the guys that are at the top. So
yeah, I wouldn't say we butted heads. I would say that like one of my
you love playing devil's
no. Like one of my personality traits is like, and a lot of people would see it as a bad one, is I'm like, if someone's offering you a point of view, just to play devil's advocate, like what's the alternative view? And I always go like, what's the worst case scenario? Because then everything else can only be better than that, right? So I wouldn't say we were butting heads, but I know exactly what you mean. I was offering you the alternative view with some facts, like when you said, you just kind of said it there. Camden gets to play more matches than you in a British Open. My argument, which I stand by, is you and Camden have the same opportunity to play the same number of matches. In fact, I would actually go one step further and say you have the opportunity to play more because Camden would be seeded through a round and you would have a first round. So obviously, the realism of it is that at the moment you haven't played in the first round and gone all the way through to the final. As I don't think anyone. Who was the last person to do that, Shanks?
Like Bagona, wouldn't it? Like 98.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Roughly speaking. So all I was kind of saying is I think the opportunities are there for people, and I remember talking about it and not saying it was a bad idea by any stretch of the imagination, but I was like, well, I remember when it was me, it was just like, right, practice matches and stuff like that, which I personally don't think the modern person does that. I don't think the modern 5-6 handicapper does that as well as people of my era, not me.
You and Ricardo and Bryn.
Yeah, I think we did a lot more to push ourselves to the top than the current crop. However,
Do you reckon you're more dedicated?
yeah,
Nice.
yeah, 100%. But
Good.
But everyone, I think, obviously in real tennis, there's a lot of talk about past players and back in the day, this guy was brilliant at this, and everyone always thinks their generation worked the hardest or had it the hardest or whatever. And I think I agree with what you're saying. Everyone has the same opportunities in the sense of, well, you can all just improve to get to the point where you get to play more matches. But I think offering a ground where it gives opportunities to people to improve, it's no bad thing.
I agree, no bad thing. I think you can definitely.
And that's
I
exactly
think that's
my
why
point.
ultimately it works.
Yeah, not saying that you were saying it's a bad thing at all.
Yeah.
I just think that also that the problem we've had in real tennis for so many years now is there's a humongous gap between the sort of top 8, let's say, and the rest of us, and to try and bridge that gap is incredibly hard. I think maybe when you were playing, there was a bit more of depth in a sense of there was a lot of you at that age group that were all pushing each other. Whereas I know when I first started being a pro 8 years ago, Levi wasn't around, Shanks wasn't really playing. It was quite lonely, and you kind of look at it and you go,
It's true.
That's an extremely long gap to try and close by just turning up to Opens and getting battered in the second round for the next 5 years. Where if
I
you've got a tournament
in that situation, I'm not saying like who's right and who's wrong or anything. What I would have thought in that situation is, I'm the only one.
Yeah,
if I work my tits off, I'm the only one to break through.
Yeah. Obviously, that's not true anymore because everyone's all of a sudden appeared and caught me up and whatever. But what I'm saying is, when you're turning up to Opens every year and you kind of have one good match in the first round, and then your next round is against someone that's just going to destroy you, love 1 and 2.
I don't know if you can approach those matches with that attitude though anymore. Certainly anymore. I think only if you play like Camden genuinely. But even then, like I think even if you lose like love 1 and 2, I think there's still a lot you can take from that match, and like you can come out of it thinking like, oh, I tell you what, I did some things that were good.
You can, but what I'm saying is, if you chucked Oxford United in the Premiership tomorrow and they just got destroyed every week, they'd become demoralised and basically want to give up. And
Derby County did.
And exactly. And I think the Opens is a place where you go, right, I might get drawn against someone here and just get destroyed. But the point with the Tambour Tour was, but next month I've got 4 competitive matches where they're very close, and if I lose, it's my own fault. Whereas when you turn up to Opens as a not top guy, you're basically like, well, there's a limit to what I can do here. And it does become a little bit like you're banging your head against a brick wall year after year, where you're finding yourself winning a tight first round and then just having a day out at Wembley and getting destroyed by someone. So I think just having that.
Would you not? So I'm thinking, okay, I can only speak from my own experience. Yes, we've all, like, I've been there, I've turned up and I've had like a gritty first round singles match, lost plenty of them. And, I've had one where I've had like a gritty first round match, got through and then had an absolute hiding. But I think the difference there, and it's not saying it's like your mentality by any stretch of the imagination, is you were like there like year on year, whereas I was like, I'm only getting spanked in the last 16 like 3 times, and then I'm being competitive. Unless I start getting back in the day when you had like Goat Rob and stuff like that. Providing I didn't get that draw, which I never had, I was like looking at these guys and thinking, I'm going to try and make an inroad into you today. And I think the modern day person just kind of gets through. Anyway, like, this is all, that's like my theory on all of it. But the fact is, the addition of the Tambour Tour is like, there can obviously be no negative. There's nothing wrong with having more matches.
What I'd say as well, I think Zach presented an excellent argument. I think you both presented an excellent argument. There have been studies as well which show that like playing devil's advocate and critiquing an idea is the only way to make the best ideas. And I think that like both of the things you were saying was like really good. Like, I was just literally listening, being like, wow, both of these, I see the point of view, like it's great. I think we can all agree that the Tambour Tour, the 3 events, it's been quality. And another good one this weekend, won by Levi. And what, we're going to Leamington in March, aren't we? And again, that's going to be well attended.
Yeah,
but ultimately, like with these kind of things, when you come up with an idea, it's the same thing. Like, if you look at the podcast. First one was literally just the 2 of us sat by a laptop kind of thing, and then once you start to do things, you figure out how you can improve them and stuff like that. But you don't, and then you end up with a better product.
Yeah,
and you don't really you don't arrive at a better product until you literally jump off the cliff for the first time and start doing it, and then you figure stuff out, don't you? Okay, well, this could be a bit better, or this could be a bit more efficient, or whatever it is. So presumably, like, first year Tambour Tour, you're probably learning quite a few things.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've done 3 already, and I've learned loads of things that work and don't work, and some I can't change until next season now, because obviously there's a season of 5 events, so it's hard to implement changes during the season, because then it can be judged to be unfair or whatever. So they're in the waiting, and they're for next season. There's also talks of a 2nd division being added for the.
Wow, that's great. That's really cool. That's really
the 15 to 25 sort of handicap range for those sort of IIP students, I suppose. And it's just providing just very quickly back to the previous stuff. It's just providing that ladder, so you don't come out of amateur tennis, turn pro, and then the next thing is the British Open. It's kind of providing that platform where you can go, okay, I'm going to get into the Tambour Tour development division, play my way through that, get to 15 handicap, then I'm going to conquer the Tambour Tour, get to 0, and then you're fresh into the British Open, where you can genuinely be competitive and push the seeds. So it's just providing that kind of ladder system to give you a bit of constant encouragement, basically.
Just about the Tambour Tour this weekend. So I was with Dazza, and he doesn't have Instagram, wasn't on YouTube watching real tennis, don't know why, all weekend, because he's got a wife and kids, more important things. Yeah. So I was like, great, Daz, these are the matches, why don't you guess the score? And I was like, first match, Lewis Gordon against Lewis Williams, and Daz's like, I bet it's a tight one. I don't know, I reckon Lewis Gordon's one. And I was like, the score was 6-3, 3-6, 6-5, and Daz just went, Lewis Williams won then. Of course he did. If anyone's winning 6-5, it's Lewis Williams. And I was like, right, fine. Exciting stuff. And Levi's top of the standings, but 2 events, and anyone can win it. There's the curse of the Tambour Tour, which is that the winner of the event has gone out first round in the 2nd and the 3rd event, which is class.
Well, that's the thing. Everyone's obviously said, it's great because it's so tight and nobody knows who's going to win. Levi won the first one. Next one, he lost first round to Max, who went on to the final, and he lost the qualifier at the round before.
Yeah.
You've had people just kind of placing all over the place. There's been no kind of steady results coming in. It's all been a bit sort of hectic, really, which is good.
That's what you want, right? The last thing you want is looking at a tournament draw and just be
predicting what's played. You
can already see what's going to happen. There might be a couple of tight ones early, but then they'll be forgotten about once they get smashed after that and stuff. So absolutely amazing for that. I'm just conscious of time, so obviously, the Tambour Tour has been a great addition to UK tennis, and congratulations certainly from me. I'm sure Shanks will congratulate you as well on your innovative movement, and obviously we both hope it goes exceptionally well, and we both hope that we are not eligible for it for the foreseeable future.
Me too.
Can you imagine you get the message then? No!
I'm close. So, Zach, you've had, let's call it a colourful real tennis career.
Yeah, okay, fine.
That's fair. What's don't worry, we're not going to delve into anything. What's next for you? Where are you at personally with real tennis?
Like you said, still pretty colourful. Still fighting inner demons and decisions and choices and things. It's always been a bit up and down for me. I mean, at the moment, I'm not working at a club, although I've been actively trying to.
You are looking for a kind of a club job, as it were.
Yeah, I think I'm 28 now, so the last couple of years I feel like I've changed quite a bit, and I've probably gone from being in a position where I would take any job to now kind of like, it has to be the right fit for me, and I want to, if I do take a job in real tennis again, it'll be a conscious decision of is it going to work, is it going to be long term? Because I've learned from the past that sometimes just taking a job on the whim and then it doesn't quite work out for whatever reason, it actually is quite damaging. So if I do go somewhere next, it will be something that I want to stick to long term, and it'll be for multiple of reasons now with a long-term partner and things. It has to fit into life and things like that. So I am looking to get back into it, but it'll definitely be if it's right, not just a forced decision.
Hypothetically, if that meant that because it's the right job and it's like waiting for the right girl in a nightclub, isn't it? You don't want to take like the first one. I don't know them. Like, you've seen that.
Yeah.
So like it could take 2, 3, 4 years. You don't know if it's the right job. And that meant that maybe you were not a professional real tennis player for that time. Let's say your status went away and you're just like a non-amateur, whatever. Would that be fine with you? You'd be fine with that?
Well, it's been, barring Jesmond, I suppose that was, they didn't really employ me. I just turned up and they were stuck with me. So that wasn't really that. So, yeah, I do. I'm waiting, definitely. But, I don't want to lose my pro status. I've spoken to the powers that be about how I can keep that pro status if it's a prolonged period. Because I know there's official rules about 2 years since you last left an employment.
It's pretty murky, isn't it? Like, I wouldn't have a clue what those rules are.
And I understand why they...
I think it's murky. I think it's
pretty
clear.
I don't know. I'm not a pro, so.
Ben will whip the rule book out.
Let's be very clear. Zach is a consulting professional for Jesmond Dean. So he's still in the game, still working as a pro. Consulting pro.
Yeah, if you do like 13 days a year, you're still considered a pro or something. So I'm making sure I'm ticking those boxes or something like that. Some cover day.
Nice.
We'll just have a good British Open run, and that's 9 days taken care of.
Well, there you go. Yeah, but I'm not going to get there unless I do the Tambour Tour first.
It's like Jordan Henson being a tax resident in Britain. Like, you got to do less than 90 days or something. Like, just being at Jesmond like 13 days. Like, I'm here. Like,
but no, I do want to stay pro. So it's cool. whether it means accepting sponsorship from Grays or something that invalidates your amateur status. So then,
no way.
I don't know. Maybe you'll end up like the film The Terminal, where you're in this grey, murky zone where you're not really a pro, you're not really an amateur, and no one knows how to classify you. But we'll cross that bridge when I come to it.
That is fair enough. Yeah, because I was like, wow. As a non-pro myself, obviously as an amateur, I'd say. Yeah, it's weird. Like, I never knew what would happen, but that sounds cool. That sounds like the plan is actually in place, and yeah, that's good though. Waiting for the right one. I just don't think anyone can criticise that. I think that's the right way to go.
You mentioned obviously, like, now that you're 28 and you mentioned like long-term partner and stuff, it's obviously not as easy just to dive around and move around the country when you're just kind of young and single and you're like, oh, that's a job, yeah, I'll go there, why not? Like, got no ties anywhere.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the long-term partner. I just want to go back to your celebs go dating period of your life.
Yeah.
The only reason I mention that is because Sally said to me earlier, she was like, ask him how he feels about. Who was it? Was it Olivia Atwood?
Liv Atwood, yeah.
He thought, ask her about Olivia Atwood because she got married last year or something.
Bradley Dack, yeah, to Bradley Dack.
Something like that.
Bradley Dack, not Dack.
In all seriousness, like, because all jokes aside, the fact is, like, that's a major, or that's like a major reality, like, TV show in the UK. Like, how on earth did that come about?
Well, obviously back then I was probably say party. I enjoyed a party, enjoyed a night out, enjoyed life. And I got a message on Instagram one day just saying, look, I don't know what you call it, a scout or like someone who's looking, like someone who's looking for someone to go on this thing. Would you be interested? And being me, I was just like, yeah, sign me up, whatever. Don't care what it is. Yeah, university in America, yeah, why not? Job in Australia, sure. Like I just sort of was in a mindset of like, I'll just do anything. I don't really care. I'll worry about it afterwards. And then, before I knew it, someone was slapping a mic on me and pushing me out the door in front of about 8 cameras, and the rest was history. And then that was it. I got ridiculed for the next couple of years for it.
Definitely not ridiculed. It's massive respect. Because, like, you were there. You were right there. Like, you could see it. Match point.
Was it nerve-wracking?
Yeah.
Or you kind of like, you hear about like... Oh, okay. I'll take like Towie for example. Like, you hear about it's like a reality, blah blah blah. But you hear they're kind of like not scripted but engineered. The conversation engineered in a certain way and stuff. Is it kind of like that, or is it literally just like you're going on a date and we're just going to film it?
Bit of both. I mean, imagine the scene, right? You're going on a date. There's 20 people stood behind the table and like 8 cameras and a gazebo and people listening to you going to the toilet. But don't worry, we're not here. I mean, as much as that can be a thing, right? So it is engineered. Like there'll be points where they would walk over to the table and be like, "Can you talk about this? And can you ask that question?" So it's kind of
it's scripted then.
It's not scripted, but they push you down a corridor of questions. So it's like
it'll be like make sure you ask this, or the conversation needs to end up in this area at some point, or whatever.
Yeah, and you watch these TV programs now, and it's ruined it for me because you're like, well, I know that someone's asking him to ask that question. The standard, like, what's your type on paper? Like, well, someone's asked him to ask that. He's not actually interested. It's just like, well, the producers walked over and gone, you need to say this.
It's not authentic Riz, is it? It's not authentic.
No, exactly. It's not, no. So,
is it very stop-start on that basis? It's not like you sat at dinner and off you go. Are they like, after 5 minutes, they're like, right, cut, guys, can you just do this?
Yeah.
Can you do that?
So whenever anyone asks that, I'm like, right, basically there was one scene where it was memed by Channel 4 and it had like 5 million views or something, where it was like what was it called? Like Kiss Fail or something like that. Basically, we were having a dinner in Mayfair in a restaurant. They were like, right, you're going to leave now, go onto the street, say bye, whatever. So, okay, fine. That took like 16 attempts to film because obviously when you leave the restaurant where it's kind of controlled environment onto a public street, there's a crowd has gathered. People are driving past, beeping their horns, shouting profanities out the window. So all of a sudden, you end up filming this thing 15 times of saying bye, and it becomes incredibly awkward. And it is stiff because you're like,
how do I say bye? Because it's bad enough, when you don't want to say bye to someone
14 times.
I know.
How many more times have I got to say bye? So it is a bit scripted, but I mean, it was good fun. It was, it was a laugh, and it's something I can look back on in 20 years' time when I've got no hair and my waistline's even bigger than it is now, and go, oh yeah, I did that once. That was quite fun.
Nothing wrong with that, mate. Only I didn't do Celebs Go Dating.
There you go. So
the best line as well from that whole thing is like when you're like, yeah, I'm Zach, I'm a real tennis professional. Rob Beckett just goes, oh, a real one, and it's just like we've all heard that one. Oh, real tennis, like it's just like everyone remembers that line. But yeah, it's class. I've rewatched it and I'm like, saying to all my mates, oh my god, I know that guy. I know him. And they're like, fuck, no, you don't. It's like, believe me, I can't. It's like being in touch with, I don't know, a higher power. Getting that insight, it is like, wow. It happened. It's real. But as well, anyway, Benno, should we move on? Go on.
Cyborg.
Yeah, I know. So obviously, every podcast, I don't know if you've listened with the guest, we've got you to just discussing one aspect of the cyborg, and you don't know what that part of the cyborg is. And unfortunately, neither do we, because we forgot to agree on the part of the cyborg. Isn't that right, Ben?
Yeah, but you're better on your feet, so at the moment, while you're thinking, we've had
Chappers and Lou.
two guests on firstly, and Chris Chapman selected Brett Richardson for the volley cyborg. Mm-hmm. Actually, that's not true. He actually selected Steve Agona, and I just then casually whispered Brett Richardson into the room, and he managed to sway his decision. Incredible.
Yeah, I did listen to that.
And good. And then Lewis Gordon, we made him choose the fourth just because he wouldn't be able to choose himself, which we knew how much that would annoy him. So,
Well, Zach, today you're going to be choosing the serve.
Cool.
Right. Okay.
So what I always want in this, bang, bang, bang. Who immediately springs to mind? Give me 3 names.
Okay. Chris Ronson, maybe an obvious choice.
Very good choice. Very good choice.
Bit of a curveball, but I was going to say Nino Marola.
Oh, yes. Ronnie O'Sullivan himself.
Yeah.
Got all the spins. New sports king.
Same kind of same trail of thought, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely come out of the Chris Ronson academy there for serving, but he comes to mind straight away.
Yeah. I would agree. I practice with Nino quite a bit, and he as well.
Yeah, just constantly. I think he thinks about it a lot more than most people. He always has a plan or a kind of, which has obviously come from Chris, because Chris told me, when I worked with him for 2 and a bit years, he used to have 5 serves that he would serve once per match when he really needed the point. And I was like, Christ, that is, there's in depth and then there's that, but that's Chris. So yeah, those 2 spring to mind straight away.
You've got to remember, by the way, this is greatest of all time, so don't be afraid to delve into the archives. Think about, Howard Angus. How many nicks in a row, Shanks?
That's 17 nicks in a row, isn't it?
Wow. Did anyone see that? Or was that
no, but his generation was the best serving.
Oh, well, yeah.
I remember having a conversation with Graham Highland, who just said, I don't understand how you guys don't just all beat Camden, just flushed your ass every time. I was like,
yeah.
Clearly you're better at serving than me.
Do you know what? That's why my archive knowledge isn't the best, because there's quite a lot of waffle from the archive, and I sometimes tend to just turn my ears off because it's we were the fastest and the best and no one saw it, so we don't know.
There's obviously a caveat to that, because we're obviously taking it based on reputable knowledge rather than actually seeing it in the flesh. Because when me and Shanks did our own cyborg, we chose Gene Scott as the volleyer, and I don't even know what Gene Scott looks like.
He's unfortunately not with us anymore.
This is what I mean. This is what I mean. Unless I've seen it, I can't put it forward.
That's why it's cool, because it's your opinion. It's your opinion.
So with all the people that you play since you've been playing, or since you've been good enough to clock who's good at stuff and who's not good at stuff, who do you find who do you struggle against when you're at the hazard end? Who do you feel pins you down? Because for example, Aussie Open for me a couple of weeks ago, Boothie just pinned me back with his railroad.
Yeah, well.
I cannot get any kind of offense off on this first ball, and now I'm just swimming upstream.
Yeah,
not saying that happens all the time, but in that particular match, I was like, I'm being pinned down here.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because it's almost in 2 parts. It's a question a volley is very much a volley, and then you've got serving and being pinned down by someone isn't always just the initial serve. It's the pattern of play that follows the serve. So essentially, I remember Chris Ronson saying to me, what are you trying to do with your serve? Why are you serving X? And I'm like, well, I don't know, because that's.
I can only imagine what their answer was.
Yeah, well, no, my answer was, well, I don't know. And he kind of said, well, what ball do you want next? So I'm thinking, being pinned down by someone, sometimes someone's serving a railroad at you that is just there to be hit, and you might just be spooning this thing round left, right, and centre, but you're almost left with no other option than to do that. So you kind of feel like you're funneled down a route that you don't want to go down. But again, it's almost, it depends on what court it is. I always feel like at Queen's I never get pinned down that much because it doesn't have it doesn't take a railroad so well.
Well, it's pretty tough to pin people down at Queen's. Just ask Cam.
Yeah. So then you go to somewhere like Oxford and you feel like you just get pinned a hazard end with a railroad, and then you can't hit a force because the dead-on's about 2 meters away from your front foot. So it's awkward. It's a tricky question, that, for the cyborg, because I think it's a multi. There's lots of different answers to it.
You could definitely be done in by Darren at Oxford, because his railroad's so low, because he's so low, and that penthouse is so low, and he's just firing in nicks. But put him on a different court, it's obviously hard.
Yeah, it's very situational. But I mean, if I had to pick someone, I'm probably going to pick Chris Ronaldson just because he was the tutor. It was the, do this. He taught me the most about why to use certain... Like, I never knew there was 3 or 4 different types of railroad. I just thought railroad was a railroad. The floaty one, or if it's chase 4, you want to smash one in really hard and try and get them up to hazard 2, so they've got to force it and they can't kind of cut the ball in the corner. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I never even contemplated this. And this wasn't when I was a 20 handicap. It was when I was like a 9, and I didn't really grasp this. So I'd probably say if I had to pick one serve, and I mean he's written books on it, so in terms of knowledge, I'd probably go to Chris.
I think that's not a bad option.
He's Mr. Miyagi, isn't he? So
that's what I mean.
Yeah. That is a good shout.
He's written books on lots of things, but serve is definitely one he's done from cover to cover. So I'll probably go for Chris.
I know, and I've not read all those books cover to cover, just like 1 or 2 pages. So maybe I'll finish those books at some point. I actually tried to buy one the other day, but it's like £1,000 from Ronaldson Publications. So I was like, well, no, I'm not.
Jeez.
I'd rather the Tambour market than
Ronaldson
Publications. Well, that is good. We have got Chris Ronaldson as the serving cyborg, which is excellent.
Am I right in thinking that that mirrors our cyborg?
Definitely with Chris. I think we chose Chris, unless it was Rob Fay's railroad button. I think we'd have gone Chris.
I can't decide whether with this cyborg that we're creating in a completely different and random order to last time, I can't decide whether it will be good for everybody to choose the same people that we did because it shows that we know what we're talking about, or whether I want it to be different because it would be boring to be the same. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely different.
Different's good.
That's why I pick a load of different brains.
Yeah. I don't know. Have you guys got any other? Because when you said serving, I thought, no, that's not. I'm not good with serving. Because I basically just stand there and hit a railroad. If that doesn't work,
that's why I wanted it to be serving though. Because I was like, I don't associate you as like a mega server like Nino. No. I was like, it's obviously not going to be forcing or targets or like forehand. So I was like, let's choose something out of the blue that like you might not expect. So that was the theory.
Well, when you've got a 77 backhand, you've got limited options for your serve. Basically, it's a railroad or bust. So.
There's always a chance to improve that card.
There you go.
Get an informed card. Zach, I've just got a quick question for you. So we talked about Tambour. We've got the clothing, the string, and Tambour Tour. Which of the 3 do you think in 10 years' time is going to have the biggest impact on the game of real tennis?
In its current state?
No. I'm just talking like it can evolve. But I just think, which of those 3 ideas that you had? The real tennis brand, the real tennis string, or the real tennis development tour, if we want to call it that?
I'd probably go for the tour because I've got ideas for the string. I mean, anyone who plays lawn tennis probably has better knowledge than I do, but you can obviously go down an octagon-shaped string. You could go much stiffer. But obviously, I think when you get to a certain, there's a ceiling before someone calls for a ban or a regulations. Which I could see happening, because as soon as I brought the string out, people were like, can you hit the ball harder? If you can, it's not allowed, and all this stuff. But it was a genuine thing, so that I think would get banned before it had too much of an impact, if that makes sense. Whereas I think the tour could have hopefully has a lasting impact in the state of UK real tennis for the next 10 years or so. Yeah. Hopefully a couple of the IIP guys can push through that 25 to 15 range into the 15 to 0 and then progress out of it. I mean, when we started, I said this season my aim is to promote somebody out of it. It would give me much pleasure to next season say, well done, you won the Tambour Tour this year, you now can't play because you're a +1. That's the whole objective of it. So in that sense, I suppose that would have the longest impact on it.
I agree.
Like, in terms of legacy, it's all about the Tambour Tour, isn't it? Because you're string. Yeah, people can do what they want with it or whatever. But with like the Tambour Tour, you're giving the opportunity for people to literally further themselves as players and make that leap. Bridge that gap between the top guys and the kind of mid-single figures. So that's definitely more of a like legacy thing, I'd say.
Yeah, maybe 100%.
10 years' time, we'll probably come back to this podcast. We'll get you back on and we'll talk about the Tambour Tour over the last 10 years. Be like, do you remember Squid Game? Like the thing on Netflix with you watch Squid Game? Oh yeah, so basically they had like archives of all the guys who'd won Squid Game and like won the millions or whatever. We'll have that Tambour Tour archives, and we'll see who. Oh, he played Tambour Tour Series 3, and now he's worse than he was.
I might have to appoint you as head archive man, Shane.
I can do that. I mean, I can already remember all the scores from all the Tambour Tours, and I'll watch them all.
Let's hope in 10 years' time you're not still in it, Zach.
Well, a year or two.
Promote yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I might be in the 15 to 25 at this rate.
That's all right, as long as there's still nice watches sponsoring it. I'm keen to ship a 1.2 and get a watch, but that's probably not the attitude, is it? But no, I reckon exciting few weeks ahead. Lots of real tennis. And yeah, Zach, thank you so much for coming on and talking about the brand. Excited for next season, and lots of ideas. Keep the ideas coming, because we want you to be the real tennis Henry Ford.
And before we boot you out of the room and close, Zach, do you want to just tell everybody like any of the social media handles or anything for you or Tambour Tour so they can give it a follow?
Yeah, so unfortunately somebody had picked me to the post for getting just Tambour, so I've had to go for Real Tambour. So the website is realtambour.com. The Instagram and the Twitter is all Real Tambour. So yeah, all the handles and the things are Real Tambour, but the brand is Tambour. Yeah.
We'll definitely whack that on. Now we are on Spotify, guys. Don't forget about that. Spotify and YouTube, so you can listen to us on your run. You can listen to us while you're on WhatsApp, while you're like on Bet365, whatever you want to do. We'll be in the background chatting all things real tennis. No idea who we're going to get on next, but wow, excited for the journey. Until next time, guys.